First item on your regular agenda is item 7, which is an ordinance amending the sanitation fiscal year 2021-2022 budget, authorizing operational expenses and capital investment for a commercial roll-off service in the amount of $787,750 and authorizing the city manager to purchase 2 roll-off trucks.
Make that a motion.
Second.
Okay, Russ?
Mayor, Council, if I could, let me back up a little bit and refresh everyone's memory as to how we got to the point where we are today. The current city charter and current city ordinance require the city to be the sole solid waste collection provider within the city. Over the course of time, we've allowed third-party companies to come in and service different types of waste inside the city, that being construction demolition waste, compactor waste, and special waste. The current state law also requires all cities to have complete control over their solid waste collection. They do this for several reasons, primarily for the health and safety and welfare of the public. You can imagine what would happen and the unsanitary conditions that would occur if the solid waste inside a city wasn't collected and disposed of in a timely and proper manner. The city has expended over hundreds of millions of dollars to develop and establish this service for our residents and businesses, that being expenses in facilities, equipment, personnel, and we provide these services at cost, which means we don't generate a profit. The rates are set and the customers pay based on the level of service that they provide. And we do this in order to protect the overall solid waste collection system. However, through the course of evaluation of our current commercial customers, staff discovered that several or numerous accounts within the city's solid waste service has been supplanted by outside third-party roll-off companies. This not only erodes away the city's customer base by causing higher rates for all the customers across the city. In some particular cases, it's actually in violation of the TCQ regulations for collection and disposal of solid waste. On December 20th, staff presented several options to you to resolve this issue and was subsequently directed to establish a commercial roll-off service, a city-provided commercial roll-off service to take the place of the commercial roll-off service third-party companies are providing now. We would basically replace that, and we were also directed to modify our ordinance to allow third-party roll-off companies to continue to serve the construction, demolition, compactor, and special waste needs within inside the city. That particular item will be at a future council meeting. The item before you today, this ordinance, would basically allocate funding to establish the city-provided commercial roll-off service. Based on what we know today, based on the level of service or anticipated that we think is out there, staff is suggesting or recommending we purchase 2 roll-off trucks, 30 30-yard containers, and 10 40-yard containers, and establish 2 permanent positions as drivers for these 2 trucks. The funds being requested today will come from fund balance, from the sanitation fund balance. This will not be a rate increase to any of our customers, and we would recommend moving forward with this ordinance today. And with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Okay. Council have any questions? Jeff?
Kinley, can you explain why it had to be classified as an emergency?
Sure, this is not unusual. Obviously the council every year passes a budget, and that budget is approved in September, it goes into effect October 1. State law requires that whenever the council wants to amend the budget and increase expenditure for some reason, you have to declare an emergency to do so. And so that we've done it before. For instance, this fiscal year alone, we've had 2 of them having to do with water issues. The water towers, I think, Russell, both of those were emergency provisions that we had to do in order to increase appropriations under the budget.
Okay. Anybody else on council? Steve?
Yes, I'd like to, before we vote on it, I would like to make a motion to amend this or table it at this time. Further.
Yeah, there's a motion.
Whatever.
You want to make a motion?
I want to make a motion to amend it so that you can talk with the 12 to 14 businesses more. I don't wanna see them go out of business and 150 employees plus be without jobs.
There's this amendment, Mayor, there's a motion to amend.
Is there a second?
Not sure exactly.
What's the amended,
I would like I said, I would like for it to,
do you want to amend the existing motions, what you're asking for?
yes,
Okay, what's the wording you want to amend it to?
for further investigations and conversations with the companies that are involved, the 12 to 14 businesses.
Well, that's
And
not,
I'm afraid of the 150 people that'll be unemployed.
well, it's not amending the motion. So there's a motion existing on the floor right now.
To table it,
Okay, you,
So you want to do a motion to amend?
yes.
okay. There's a second. Okay, motion fails for not having a second. Well, we still have the members here. We still have, I would imagine, all the 10 to 12 people here. Let's hear them out today, and we can still bring the motion up. Go ahead, Jeff.
Russell, what's the projected ROI after we begin offering these services?
Counselor, we believe, based on what we know today, the anticipated level of service, and obviously we don't know exactly what's out there, but our anticipation is we can pay for this in 8 to 10 years based on what we believe our rates will need to be based on our cost as well as replacement of that equipment.
Okay, or once we start, are we gonna be able to keep up with the demand of what we think we're gonna have?
That's our intention, yes. I
Because
mean, we-
right now, we have, we have 18 10-yard boxes already, right?
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
And with buying 40, that would probably mean serving 30 to 35 customers with 5 to 10 spares.
That's what we're aware of today, yes.
Right, because we found 31, I think, is where we're at.
We found 40 some odd, counselor, 6 or 7 of them had pulled back the roll-off service that they had. They obviously didn't need it. Of the list of customers that we see that potentially need it, we think there's 30 to 35 of them, yes.
Okay. And in the meantime, if we do vote this, we're looking at, it's 15 months for the trucks, is that correct?
That's right. And
So
we'll
what do we-
address that in a future item here.
Okay, all right.
Steve, anything else to add? Tim?
I was just curious, Steve has stated that there'll be 150 people lose their jobs. What evidence do we have of that, and if so?
I have no evidence of that, Counselor. That there's 40, that we're talking about 40 locations across the entire city. That's the ones we know of. I mean, there may be more out there, but 40 locations served as we see it, and what we've identified served by 4 or 5 different companies. So we're talking about 10 boxes per company, maybe. 10 boxes would be the level of business that the city would be replacing from these third-party roll-off companies.
And we're not going to be affecting any of the procedures with home builders, commercial builders,
No, sir.
and anything to do with building?
That's right. The temporary commercial construction service industry, if you will, that needs the roll-off boxes, the city does not intend to get into that business.
Mayor, can I add to Councilor Burr's question and Russell's answer? As Russell mentioned, up to this point, we've kind of had a gentleman's agreement, if you will, that would allow those folks to do the special removal of waste, hazardous waste, and particularly the commercial and demo debris removal. What we plan to do is to formalize that, to come back at a later point with an ordinance amendment that clarifies that puts that, that ordains that. So I know there's some concern out there from these companies that we don't plan to continue to allow them to do that we have plans to get our nose in the business, so to speak, and then basically push them completely out of the business we just talked about. We have no plans for that. In fact, we're going to protect that right by bringing an ordinance that clarifies that right for you to vote on in the near future.
Yeah, I don't think that we could take care of anything like that. That's what I was concerned with.
We could if we hired enough people and spent enough money, but
Right.
we
don't
do
wanna
not
do
have
that.
plans to do that.
We think the third-party companies or outside companies do a great job servicing that, and we don't intend to get into that business. Never have. I'm not sure, I know all you've heard that this is our first step to supplant and replace and put all these companies out of business. Absolutely not. That's not our intention here. Our intention here is to basically, as Councilor Wiley put it, if you don't mind me, Councilor Wiley, these guys have gotten out of their lane over time. They've always done the construction demo, and now they've eased over into the commercial side. We want to push them back out of the commercial collection, put them back in their lane, continue to serve. There's 50 compactors across the city that are served by third-party companies. There's construction and demo waste all across the city that these companies serve, and then there's special waste, the medical waste that gets hauled. We don't want to be in that business. I think the city decided a long time ago they don't want to be in that business by allowing this to happen, as Darren said. So all we're asking the council to do, and the recommendation that was made to you on the 20th, was to push the third-party guys back in their lane. Let us recapture the lost revenue that we've lost to this third-party companies by these businesses reducing their dumpster service provided by the city. Let us recapture that. There's been a convenience expectation out there now created by the third-party companies with some of our customers. They put the roll-offs in there, and these customers like them. And in some cases, they make a lot of sense. Take Overhead Door, for example, who brings in old doors. Take furniture stores who bring in mattresses and things like that, old furniture. It makes a lot of sense to put those in the roll-off. What we want to do is put the city's roll-off in those places and move forward. Let the third-party companies continue to do their construction demo, compactor waste services. I'm not sure why, with 30 boxes and 2 trucks, we certainly can't service the entire construction industry inside the city.
Kenley, what are we looking like as timeline to amend this ordinance that we have?
Russell and I and Teresa are working on the ordinance as we speak. So we've got a rough draft already fleshed out. We're just at this point trying to go through the details to make sure that we don't have any loopholes or anyone falls through the cracks. We're hoping, I think, Russell, to bring it next month in April,
That's the
hopefully.
intent, yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, the same council gets to vote on amending the ordinance to where,
Sure.
to the way we want it.
And,
Okay.
and amending the ordinance will actually authorize the
Right, it's gonna
companies
lead-
out
yeah,
there
yeah.
to not have worries about operating in the future. It'll give them express authority to do what we're currently doing now.
Okay.
Okay,
I got a question.
go ahead.
What I'm getting out of this is like the mayor was saying, I think we ought to clarify certain things. Once you let the horse out the gate, it's gonna be hard to stop it. So you're saying that you're not gonna enter into this program or that program, but what assurance do they have that the city's not gonna enter into that? I think that's what the problem is, right there.
I think Darren addressed that in the sense that, go ahead and reiterate what you were saying.
Yeah, I think we're attempting to address that by, again, getting away from the historical gentleman's agreement that's worked up till this point, decades, where we've said, you guys can handle this waste removal. We have all the residential and the commercial waste removal over here. Up to this point, we've not formalized that because there was no need, frankly. Everyone understood it. What's happened now is solid waste creep, if you will. They've crept out into collecting other waste, impacting our revenue stream and our solid waste stream. So what we want to do is memorialize what these companies can and can't do. And by doing that, Counselor, that basically says the city has no intention of getting into that business. It's giving them that right. It's ordained. It'll be in an ordinance. I think it's important to remember, as Russell said, we're not taking business away. These companies have grown and essentially, without permission, creeped into our solid waste operation. So you ask the question, what guarantees do they have that we won't creep into their operation? I could ask the same for us. So I think this ordinance that will come before you in a month or so will be beneficial for both parties. It will allay their concerns that we're trying to put them out of business, and it will help us out by making sure all of these folks understand kind of where the boundary lines are. And as Russell said, we're talking about maybe 30, 40, dumpsters that are out there in the community now that we can serve. If that puts these companies out of business and costs hundreds of jobs, I can't see how that would happen, because remember, these companies serve not only parts of Wichita Falls, but the county, outside of our jurisdiction, in some cases out of state.
Right. Shouldn't that ordinance be here now before we start voting on this?
Let me attempt to answer that question. I think we've already, in updates we've given you, pointed this out, but for the audience, I'll reiterate it. There's a lead time in purchasing this equipment. And we have customers that have been kind of in a lurch. They've been notified by the city months ago that they need to remove their roll-off container. And so rather than hold those customers off for months at a time, we wanted to bring this to you and get the equipment going and then follow that up with the ordinance. I put that out to council weeks ago and asked for concerns and comments and never heard a thing.
I'm gonna ask the audience, if you're gonna have opportunity to speak, so shouting things out from the audience doesn't help anything. If you have something you want to say, I'm here in a minute, I'm gonna ask people to come up one at a time, and they'll be able to voice their stuff. So we're trying to limit the amount of shouting we have up at council or staff, please. All right, anybody else? Okay. Russ, anything else to add?
No.
All right, so this is an opportunity for the public to come up. A lot of members signed up, actually on sign-in sheets, you didn't have to. If you signed up for an item that is on the agenda, you're allowed to speak during that agenda item. If you have something outside of what's on this agenda and you want to remain on the list, you can remain on the list and speak towards the end of the meeting. But anybody from the public wish to speak?
Hayden Hansen, owner of On-Site Solutions, 6907 Seymour Highway. So, Mr. Schreiber, welcome, council. Thank you for letting me be here. So, a few things here. He talks about the TCEQ and the state regulations. I've reached out to our state representative and the TCEQ. There is no laws that we are affecting whatsoever. No fines have ever been given. No phone calls or any visits have ever been made. That is a false statement. I think he spoke with Representative Franks himself. I think maybe some other people did as well. There's no law. He keeps pushing that there's laws that are being broken and we're violating state code. That is not the case, and nothing has ever been said from that part. If that has been the case, we would have been called out, and that has not happened. So first of all, that's one of the things that, that keeps getting pushed, that we're breaking the law, and that's not the case. Lost revenue, 2019. We keep saying that the lost revenue in 2019 is why we had to raise the rates for all citizens of Wichita Falls. I'd like to see proof of that. I do know that Midwest Waste sold July 2019 to Waste Connections. They were paying the city $50,000 a month on average, and I'm going to go with that's probably where the lost revenue came from. So in turn, for the last 10 years, they were using that funds guaranteed coming in on an average of $50,000 a month, and it went away July 2019. Maybe that's the reason where this lost revenue come, that we're blaming the outside roll-off sources. He keeps going back to, we're going to be able to do construction and demolition. What's not being said is construction and demolition is a very small portion. We're leaving out the fact of, if you got a divorce and maybe you didn't want your husband's things, you want to get rid of them, get a roll-off, dump it in there. You had a flood, you need some new carpet, your furniture was destroyed. You don't need a permit for that, but you need a roll-off for that. They're saying in that we would not get those jobs. A realtor, for instance, sells a house or goes to list a house and it's full of junk because they're a hoarder. They would call us, We would take a roll-off, we would empty the house, or they would, we'd take the roll-off to the dump. Those aren't construction demolition jobs. That's what keeps us going every single day. And if we lose those, that's when we would lose employees and lose jobs and potentially could go out of business. The city of Gainesville did this exact same thing. They started out just like this, went after a small portion, eventually they took it all over. If you need a roll-off in the city of Gainesville, you have no choice but to use the city, and it's very high. An average roll-off in the city of Wichita Falls is around $350. In Gainesville, it's $850. Who would see that? We would. If anybody needed a roll-off and the city decided to go that route, which there's no guarantee they won't, everybody would be affected. All of our contractors, everybody. And in turn, we would all have to pay for it. If anybody needed one, it would cost us all more money. We are practically paying the city to go in this business. We're spending $800,000 to buy 2 trucks and 40 boxes to let them start, to get their foot in the door, like Larry said, to then go after what they want next. Hey, we don't have enough, and then do what Gainesville did, and we're back to the monopoly of a roll-off company.
Hayden, I'm gonna stop you real quick, because I see Steve bending his head as he agrees with you, but our city manager, our public works director, and most of this council has told you that is not our intent.
I understand your
You
intent.
screamed it from your seat,
The Gaines-
ha-ha, intent.
Gainesville said the same thing when they started.
Exactly, but you're also in a business, and I've said this to you, I've said this to almost anybody that's called me. You're in an industry where it is volatile because the type of industry you're in and what you're doing, you're dealing with municipalities. And regardless if I'm sitting here next year or 10 years from now, Russell retires, Darren leaves, you're at the mercy almost every year at the council that sits before you. So we're trying I'm trying to establish you, legitimize you in the sense that we want to write an ordinance that actually defines.
Yes, and we
what
would
you
love
should
to,
do.
we would love to
Let me
see
finish.
that.
So, we've spoke about this, being the type of business that you are, and being in the sense that we've already established some grounds, and we say crept, I don't know if that's the right word, but you've kind of crept over into our lane and toward the sense you're starting to look at some of our commercial business, and that's where your customers are. And we're just trying to reel those customers back in, the 40 or so. You're afraid, still, and most of your statements and your rhetoric, is the fact that we're lying to you. Or that maybe we all die tomorrow and the next council may proceed forward, correct?
I just want to see that
Well,
from the start.
Hey, I'm just gonna tell you, I'm not lying to you.
I'm not
And I
calling
don't think Darren's
anybody,
lying
I'm
to you. I
not
don't
calling
think
anybody a
Russell
liar.
Schreiber's lying to you.
What I am saying is that from when this started in October, when it got brought to our attention of what it was going to be, it has changed since then every single day. We're not going after this, we have no intention whatsoever to go over this. We tried to work with y'all on making a plan that would work for everybody and potentially help our taxpayers and not make them pay for a roll-off company. This $1 million that's coming from the sanitation department for pay for this was excess funds that were found in the landfill from outside haulers, which was like myself. So you're saying you're going to take 8 to 10 years to pay for this, but yet you're cutting my business, which in turn, why would I want to do business with a city that is
We
cutting
can
my
address
own
that in a
business?
second. So you do agree that you have crept into what the city?
No, I do not. I don't think I've crept in because how did the city let a customer get rid of a city service? I never once reached out to any customer and said, I want you to get rid of your dumpster and use my service. I never have once done that, and I don't think anybody
What would you do, me as a resident, I have the green cards.
Yes, sir.
What if I called you and said, hey, I don't want my green cards anymore, I want red on-site solution cards?
I would not do that
Why?
because that's not it. That's what the city does.
Exactly. Thank
So the city takes care of the weekly garbage pickup. I would not get into that business. I have that business outside of the city.
So we have residential and commercial pickup.
I get it. I will not transplant a 8-yard dumpster or a poly cart or a 5-4-3-2 yard dumpster in the city of Wichita Falls. No, I will not do that. People call me every day to do that. Colonial Park Veterinary Hospital called me to bring them a dumpster because the city would not dump that.
If
They called the city and the city said, we're dumping it. They said, well, if you want to come look at my cameras, I'm showing you that we're not dumping it. Can you please bring me a dumpster? No, sir, I cannot bring you a dumpster because that is against the city. I'm not in that business. I'm in a roll-off business We do not intend to haul patrusable waste. That's never was our intention. And if that happened, that is
Well, you are in that business outside the city of Wichita Falls.
correct, but we are not in that business in Wichita Falls. We are talking about Wichita Falls right now.
That is correct.
Yes.
So do you, to what Councilor Jackson said, if we buy 40 containers, do you feel that we're going to have a loss of 150 jobs?
No, I'm just like Larry said, I'm not worried about the 30 jobs at the time. But this is you're letting the horse out of the gate. I get what you're saying is every council is going to make this decision. But it doesn't, also as a business person, which all of y'all are in business, $800,000 is not a good investment to buy 2 trucks and 40 boxes. There's no guarantee how often you're going to haul those boxes and if any of those people are even going to use the city service. No guarantee. I'm with the government and I'm here to help.
Services. I mean,
They've used them since the 90s.
we're already in that business, Hayden.
You're not in the, if you were in that business, the customers behind me would use your
You're not
services
talking about
today.
the type of business, you're talking about the type of
container.
vessel that we use to contain.
You're not in that container business. The container, the equipment that you have will not suffice the customers that we use, that use us today.
So you have an issue with us trying to just recapture what was taken away from us.
I'm trying to figure out where you lost it, yes.
Are you still trying to figure that out?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
I am.
So I think we could tell, I mean, Russell, if you want to address
I
some
pay
of
you
this.
$45,000 a month, you get my trash anyways, every single month.
Do you want to address some of what he said?
No risk, no payment, no insurance, no trucks, no employees. You are? You're not, Iowa Park is cheaper than the city of Wichita Falls.
It's a business decision. You all will take your waste to whatever landfill is open during rainy events, and whatever's cheapest. We understand that.
We are forced to use the landfill. Other landfills are not open. The construction industry does not close on certain holidays, like last Monday. Yes, we were forced to go to another landfill because those contractors needed us, and we had to go somewhere else. Another point is if the city's in that, and every day the city closes for the trash service, who's gonna haul those customers? Because those people don't shut down. They never stop working.
Okay, so your fear is not the 30 or 40 containers.
Well, I don't want that either.
I know, but your fear is if that was to happen, then gloves are off. We're taking over, we're gonna invest tens of millions
That
of
happens
dollars.
in many cities that do this. This is exactly
It's
how
probably
they
happened in
start.
several cities.
I've got a list if you wanna see it.
I don't care to see the list, but I think, I mean, I understand, like I told you, I understand before, your fear is if we recapture the customers that are rightfully ours, that now we have the ability, we've had that ability since 7 years ago when I was first elected, you'll have that ability 7 years from now. But what you're doing is, we're gonna try to get an ordinance that really specifies, you know, who does what.
But we
And
haven't.
then hopefully before, because right now, that ordinance doesn't exist.
That's why I think we're getting the cart before the horse. I think we should have the ordinance before we try to spend $800,000 of our taxpayers' money. Why would you, exactly why this got brought as an emergency. I still, like Browning said, I don't see how this is an emergency. There's no reason this should be, the city caused the problem of telling these people they had to get rid of their trash. We've been operating this way, like you said, for years. If it's really an emergency, we can keep taking care of them the way they want to be taken care of. And if and when that decision is made, we go that direction. But there needs to be an ordinance first before we spend $800,000 of our taxpayers' money to buy something that our taxpayers don't want.
The ordinance is for your benefit as well as ours. You realize that?
And we'd
correct?
love to see it
You
before
realize
it's
that,
voted.
correct?
Well,
Well, we're giving you
if
the
it is,
intent of the ordinance.
if
So
it is
once
worded,
again, I'm
it
not lying
could,
to you,
it
I'm
could,
telling you what this ordinance is gonna have
but
inside.
from
So
the,
do you agree with that or not?
if I saw it, I would hope to agree, but I have not seen the ordinance.
Do you agree that the 30 to 40 containers is not gonna bankrupt 10 roll-off companies?
No, 30 containers will not bankrupt.
Would you say it's a dent in your budget? I mean, even less than a dent? It'd be nothing budget does to you?
It would not be great. I would not like it whatsoever.
Would it affect you? Would it
Yeah,
bankrupt you?
it would not bankrupt me. It would affect us. It will not bankrupt us, but it will affect us.
Everybody's gonna get an opportunity to speak.
But no,
Speaking to you.
I don't think we're talking about bankruptcy, but I'm talking about, yes, it will hurt us.
Well, our
We pay a
counselor
lot of taxes
received
and a
something that said it's gonna be a loss of 150 jobs in, how many companies, Steve? 10 companies?
If,
12 to 14.
if,
12 to 14 companies and lost 150
you-
jobs if we purchase 30 to 40 containers.
It's not exactly what he said, but what he is saying is once this starts and this happens, it will lose. We will go out of business, yes, sir. If the city takes over the roll-off business completely,
I would agree with you there. If the city took over the roll-off business completely.
and there is no guarantee that will not happen, and if you get started, it's the roll down the hill to do that.
No. Russell, any intent whatsoever? Have you ever stated that?
The first meeting I had with Russell, there was no intent whatsoever,
I'm gonna let Russell speak real
100% to
quick.
get in the roll-off business.
Okay.
I work for you, Mayor, and you take the recommendations I've made as well as the city manager, and 20, 30 boxes and 2 trucks is not intending to take over the entire commercial roll-off or construction roll-off business.
Have you had any direction from anyone on council
No.
to start with this, and then next year, let's get another 2
No.
trucks and 30 more boxes?
No.
Darren, have you had? Nobody's spoken to
But
this.
it was stated that he does not need your authority, once this is there, to continue to purchase more boxes. Is that correct?
It's all gotta come for council, unless we,
It
well,
goes
put it
through,
this way.
if it can go through the sanitation budget,
No, it's gotta go through the budget, and the budget's adopted by council.
but you don't know what the budget's for,
Yeah, we do. I mean, we see the
There's-
budget, we're handed a 500-page document.
of what
We get 6 months
exactly
to
they
review
get to
it.
spend it on?
Absolutely.
Because I think there was an email sent that said they could buy this through their budget now and they could go around the
Just to
council.
clarify the legal issue, if the council wants to spend more than $50,000, if the city wants to spend more than $50,000, they have to come to council and get a vote, whether that's for purchase of trucks, which costs more than that, or purchase of roll-offs,
So if it's under 50, they could just buy it out of their budget.
if it's appropriated.
So roll-off, a truckload of roll-off boxes is under $50,000.
Not the one that we're paying for today.
A truckload? We buy them every day.
But the trucks, I'm just
I
saying.
understand, but once they get in the business, they do not need the
But
council's
that budget
approval.
item, I think you're getting, so,
He just
Russell,
said,
hold on, I'm gonna get this out here. So, we're presented with the budget, and it's, we're about to hit budget season. And Darren's about to start getting with Russell, he's gonna tell him what he needs for the next year, and we're gonna appropriate a certain amount of money. If we see that line item that says, hey, we're gonna get 40 more boxes, you know, it's gonna raise a red flag with us, because we get to see that. I don't, you know, if we vote on a $190 million budget, council gets the opportunity to review for months and months and months and bring up. Matter of fact, when we get down to the last 2 months, I asked this council, if you have any questions on this budget, you know, we look at the sanitation fund, we can dig as deep as how many pencils he's buying if we want to. So I know what you're saying, but yeah, it all has to come to his council. This is your body to protect you, Hayden. I know
That's what I
you
hope.
feel like we're adversarial here, but this body's here to actually help you, one, legitimize your business in the city of Wichita Falls, two, you know, hopefully some sort of permit process so the people that don't want to follow the rules might not be here, and three, to make sure that we're only purchasing 2 trucks and so many roll-offs, so we don't put you out of business or any other person out of business, and that we just do the protection of what I feel is what we're elected to do is the other citizenry. I mean, the other part that you're not speaking about is how does this affect the rest of the citizenry? You know, not just in service, but in terms of their pocketbook.
Well, that-
So you've a little bit of scare tactics here. The city of Gainesville is $850 a roll-off, okay? Okay, but it's the city of Gainesville. I mean, we can talk about.
well, Mayor, every meeting that I've been to and watch on TV, we always want to act like another city. We are our own city, but we always look at, oh, this is what Tyler's doing. This is what San Angelo's doing. So that is a prime example of what y'all do every meeting, so I was doing the same thing. San Angelo is doing the same thing.
In the terms of positivity, we try to say that, you know,
Well, so
sometimes we want to be reflective of those
So
cities.
positivity is those cities have grown over the last 30 years. Wichita Falls has not. So that's not a correct statement in that of positivity. I want our city to thrive. I was born here, raised here, stayed here, volunteer here, go to church here. I want this city to succeed, and things like this is why people do not want to come here. The saying of "I'm with the government, I'm here to help" is not a great saying. It's not always the best way. There's other ways. That's why we would like to work with you.
Let's reel it back into this issue. We're getting a little bit broad here in the sense that we're not talking about the item before us.
I just hope that y'all really think about this in the aspect of this company and what this means to all of the companies and the city of Wichita Falls. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Hayden.